compass haywire, and the right one does, but not as strongly. So there's multiple weird things that were going on, including magnetic anomalies around the campsite as well.
Well, you know what? You might have been scanned. When you go by that object that you guys saw, it was doing the flashing, and then looked like a blue laser coming out. They were probably scanning you guys, and you know what? I hate to say it, you might have been selected, for an abduction. What you need to do is go in and have X-rays done or something, just to see if anything's strange in your wrist or hand or in your body. Because again, that watch glowing brightly, tells me something happened. A big charge, something happened while you were sleeping.
Yeah, you're right. It's unexplainable to us so far here, but we do have some interesting scientific observations that we think we can point to.
Now, Troy, I got to ask you a question. You were staying up kind of late, weren't you?
I was.
Now, did you see any weird, like Michael was talking about, that object that was kind of orbiting or emitting some type of flash or whatever it was doing? Did you see that too? And did you see anything strange while they were sleeping? Not just the Bigfoot. I'm talking about any strange lighting or noises or anything happened that you can think of?
Not from where I was in the main campsite, where a few of us were camping for numerous nights in a row. That night, of the Mount Adams incident, the forest was all dark and still as far as I was awake. I didn't see any crafts or light. However, I would like to comment on Michael's glowing watch that he saw.
Yeah, please do.
As soon as his CPAP machine shut off. So I was talking with one of the UFOI team members last night after our meeting, and they said that there may have been a candle burning next to Michael or something of that sort.
Now,
that
I don't think that
may have. No, I'm not saying that's the whole answer, but if there was maybe a lantern or anything else nearby that could have maybe illuminated his watch. However, I'm not saying that there wasn't something else strange that happened, because Michael did share with the group that more recently, since the incident, he woke up again in the middle of the night, I believe from his home or inside of a bedroom, I'm guessing, and he saw his watch glowing yet again. So I'm guessing there weren't any lanterns in his bedroom at the time, but
well, I'm gonna, one thing I will say, like I'm gonna stress, I have a massive electronic background. I seriously do, and I can't see a watch, even with a candle. I'm gonna be honest with you. I was in the military. I was in Vietnam. No way could you take a watch like that and with a candle and charge it. It takes more light than that to charge it. So let's rule out the candle. Now, a lantern would have to be pretty bright. And again, too, it's not like a light bulb. It's not going to put out the UV, the light it's required to charge it. It would take a long time. And if it was glowing really bright, tells me something had to really charged it. And I just can't see it unless somebody had lights in there. And even that, I take it in his camper, the lights were probably, 12-volt light system?
Oh, yeah, it was very minimal. And, of course, the lights were totally turned off. It was dark in there when we went to sleep. And, by the way, my I am sleeping underneath a sleeping bag, inside a sleeping bag with my arms inside, and my my large, thick wool blanket over the top of my sleeping bag as well all night long. I'm not one of these guys that kind of like to sleep in the airy situation. I like to get all curled up and get warm. So as far as I know, all night long, my arms and hands were inside the sleeping bag for that time period as well. When I woke up, I actually had to it was amazing that my watch was so much glow to my watch that it hit me. But I kind of dismissed it. Is that how could that happen? Because it's not like a normal glow when you normally go to bed at night. You can see your watch for a short period of time. This thing almost looked like it was thrust underneath a headlamp for a period of time for some reason.
Oh wow, that's what I'm saying. Now, have you done anything like? Okay, now Timothy Cullen had the same thing. He had a triangle marks where his implant was. I don't know if you remember that. And that, in a lot of cases I've researched, and some of the other guests I've had on my show that claim they've been abducted, they've had those similar type of marks, puncture-like marks. Now,
yes.
Now, was there any soreness to it at all or anything? And how long did it take before it faded away? And have you done anything like check for like if radiation on it, putting a Geiger counter on it, or even a compass on it, or anything to see if it detected anything?
Yeah, I want to let you know that the thing was not painful at all, which was kind of unique, and it didn't last very long. It was probably disappearing in 2 days after the event. It was barely noticeable there. That's why I took a photograph or two of it right away, just to make sure that I documented it and stuff. But I'll tell you what, Gary, I am doing something right now that is kind of following your lead. I have a compass, just an old-fashioned, analog compass that I am using right now, and I'm bringing it close to my left wrist, and it's definitely some kind of a magnetic anomaly every time I bring it to my wrist.
Now, how about your other wrist? If you go to the other wrist, do you get any movement? Is it only this one wrist that's doing it?
That's a good question. Let's try that. And here's the thing. My other wrist has my analog watch on it. So you would assume that would, that does react because I have my watch, my analog watch that glows on it. So I'm going to take my analog watch off right now.
Okay.
And take the compass, and I'm going to put it next to my right wrist as well. See if there's any difference here. You know what? It looks like, let me try one more time. No. There's no noticeable difference when I'm doing that with my right wrist. Now let's try it with the left wrist again. Oh, man, the compass spins completely around, Gary, when I bring it to my left wrist. That's weird.
Okay.
Now,
I've
never had that x-rayed.
Now, next time you go to the doctors, I hate to say it, it'll cost you a few bucks. I would get it x-rayed and see if it shows up. I mean, that's how Timothy found it. That's how they originally found mine. And when they found mine back in the 90s originally, I blew it off. Okay. I didn't, it wasn't bothering me when they kept asking me, well, where did it come from? When did you have surgery there? We can't find any marks of it. I just blew it off like, hey, like, again, it wasn't only when we started talking, and then I started having other guests that had implants that I realized maybe something is strange going on here with me. Because also, remember we were talking about lights going out, in certain areas of the street and things like that. I've had so many weird things that it's transpired in my life, which isn't normal. I don't know. And, again, I asked the doctor here just yesterday. I said, today is what? Tuesday. Yeah. Yesterday was Monday, right? Yeah. Yesterday, I asked the doctor, I said, now, what is in my spine here? Could that have been, from when I was in the military or whatever? He said, no, this is like in a weird position. He said it had to have been like if they were doing surgery. But he didn't even know of any medical equipment it would look like that. That's what the interesting thing is.
Yeah. Well, You and I both, Gary, suffer from what they call the slider syndrome, the streetlight interruption syndrome, where we're turning computers off and streetlights when we go by. And I think that has something to do with being tweaked somehow, by some kind of off-world entity, potentially, that our brains are doing something that normal people's brains don't necessarily do. And it's not a great thing because you have to deal with it, having to deal with electronics all the time. I know people that can't even wear watches because of that.
Well, I'm going to say this. I sometimes wonder about my relationship with my wife. We're 42 years together, okay, in this marriage. But we're totally opposite of each other. I mean, normally you wouldn't, fall in love and get married and stay married for 42 years and have 8 kids with, we're totally opposite. I mean, I like my type of stuff. We have virtually nothing in common other than we're friends. Now, when I met my wife, it was the same weird thing. I bought her a watch for our first Christmas together. And she said, Michael, well, not to you, but this is what happened is she goes, take it back. And I go, why? I can't wear a watch. I go, why? Does it turn your arm green or something? No, it'll quit working. Now, I didn't believe her. She has never been able to wear a watch more than a day or two, and it stops.
Wow.
And sometimes I wonder because, her father was in the military and traveled. She was a military brat. He was in the Air Force. I'm just wondering, maybe she was abducted at one point in her life, too, and doesn't even remember it or doesn't know it, because I find it so strange. You put a watch on her, and I'm talking the wind-up watch, okay? Not the battery-operated. You can put a battery-operated one. It does the same thing. She can't wear a watch, period. It stops.
Amazing.
I just can't account for it. And it's not been 1 or 2 watches through the 40-some years. I've bought her probably a dozen different watches. None of them ever lasted more than a couple days. That's it. They quit working. They're gone.
Yeah. Well, if she ever needs to or wishes to be regressed hypnotically, we can set that up. That would be fascinating to have her explore that.
Sometimes I wonder if a person has been abducted, somehow they're programmed to maybe mate with another person who's been abducted. Have you ever thought about that?
Oh, yes, I have. Matter of fact, there are many, many stories that the UFOI team has studied over the years where children are being abducted very young, potentially even being introduced on board to other children, other earthbound children, as well as ET children, to kind of get to know each other and learn about each other. I don't know if that's something that is like a match made in heaven or in the craft or not, but that's very possible.
Yeah, I just kind of thought about that. Maybe that some of these people that have been abducted, their mate might have been abducted too, and they are being, because they were implanted, maybe, and that they're being monitored. It makes sense to me. Maybe not to you, but it does certainly to me. Hey, Troy, now I got to ask you a question here. Now, when Michael was in that camper trailer, did you hear see any? I know I already asked you that, but if you think really hard, I mean, did you see him go out to go to the bathroom at all? Did you see any movement, hear him snoring, anything?
Can't say that I did, and really I didn't see or hear anything that was going on at that trailer. I spent pretty much my whole time while we were at the lake around the campsite where I had my tent up, and it was across the road from that campsite that Kevin and Michael were sleeping in that trailer. So, and there were some trees and bushes between us, so I didn't even have a good, clear shot of vision over there. It was like a probably a few 100-foot walk at least. I didn't hear anything from there either.
Okay. Now, I'm sorry I brought you on, Troy, late. Now, the problem is I got another guest coming on in about 4 minutes. Now, Troy, what is your time slot available tomorrow? Because I do have from 8:05 to 9 o'clock open tomorrow, and you're more than welcome. Come on, and we can, carry on our conversation from the other night.